Hey guys, what's up? It's Sean, Autotopia LA, and I've had a handful of you guys ask in the comments, when are you gonna shoot that Hummer in your shop? Obviously, we lean a lot on go-fast cars around here because it's kind of what we like. But today, we've got a 2006 H1 Alpha Edition here. This is the Mac Daddy, man. This is the last year. It's got the Duramax motor in it. This is the badass H1 if that's what you're into, especially if you're a collector. This is the one that the collectors like, the Alpha, the final year of it, low mileage. This vehicle only has 11,000 miles on it. It's barely driven. So we are about to do our normal thing, go for a little drive, talk some details, and show you guys what the H1's all about. So hold on, because here we go, man. All right, you guys, here we go for a cruise in this bitchin' 2006 Hummer H1 Alpha. Very cool vehicle, actually. You know, I can't say I was ever overall a fan of this thing. When I think back to the days of seeing video of them, you know, getting dropped from helicopters into other countries, which is pretty amazing, actually, to think that these things would parachute in and troops would jump in and drive them. It's a very unique vehicle, no doubt. This thing is based completely and totally on the military Humvee. All the chassis, suspension, the portal axles, the inboard brakes. So much of the technology is straight off of the military Humvee. This one's just made to be a little more streetable, and that's especially this Alpha Edition. You know, you've got the leather interior, which makes it more comfortable. It's got the cool steering wheel. It's painted. You know, I mean, it's a great looking, it's such a unique vehicle. I mean, you drive down the road and people look at this thing like, what is coming at me? You know, the final year they did this, it has the 6.6 Duramax, which is without question the best motor that ever went in the Humvee. Turbo diesel. It's massive in size. I mean, the width of this vehicle is over 7 feet wide. It's 86.5 inches wide. It's actually wider than it is tall. But it's got a lot of cool features to it. The technology that sits in the wheels on this to be able to air up and air down. I have the ability right here while I'm rolling to deflate or inflate the tire pressures. You know, another thing I think is pretty amazing about this is the weight of it. This is 10,000 pounds. I think it's 10,300 to be exact, which is obviously a ton of weight. But it gets up and moves just fine. It takes a while to stop it. I couldn't tell you what 0 to 60 is, what 60 to 0 is, other than I could tell you it takes a while to get to either one of those. The inboard brakes work exceptionally well. They're really, actually that technology, there's a lot of logic in it, in that it puts the weight on the chassis rather than on the suspension when you're under heavy braking, especially with a big vehicle like this. It's got 16 inches of ground clearance, 16 inches of natural ground clearance in this thing. A lot of that due to the portal axles, a lot of it due to everything being tucked up inside, you know, bring you from the outside to the inside. As you'll notice on the interior, you've got this massive, massive space occupied in the center of the vehicle. From one perspective, you can look at that and go, wow, what a horrible waste of space. You've got this gigantic interior, but it's really, truly a four-seater. That's it, you know? And that's because this whole transmission, everything's tucked up so high to create the ground clearance that we get here. Very cool. This is not, you know, it's kind of funny when you think that it was turned into a semi-luxury based vehicle. This is as luxurious as this vehicle ever got in the Alpha Edition. It's not what this thing's designed to do. What it is designed to do is do things like it can roll through up to 30 inches of water, no problem with the clearances that it has. It can climb up steps 22 inches tall. Just climb right up a 22-inch climb. Pretty big. It's said to be able to handle somewhere in the range of a 60-degree grade. Pretty massive. That's a pretty big slant. I don't know if I'd want to be on it. I'm not the off-road guy, but I think if the world was coming to an end and I was at my shop, there's no question this is the vehicle I'd jump in. I'd want to make sure both tanks of diesel are nice and full, because this thing doesn't get the best of mileage. It averages around 10 miles to the gallon. I think it's really cool. The view you have from the cockpit here is great. Everything's right in front of you, and it almost reminds me very much so of how it is sitting in the Ford GT. Ford GT is very similar, where the whole cockpit's laid out. There's an angle in the dash to suit the driver. And this is the perfect vehicle if you're in a fight with your girlfriend or your wife. She's all the way over there. It's a long ways to go, man. This is definitely, it's power everything. I mean, you've got AC in here, you've got stereo, which I've never turned on in here before. I'm not one to listen to music too often in cars. I actually like hearing the sounds of them. This one's great. You can hear the turbos real easily when you're under any sort of load. You know, but it's power everything. I mean, the windows, you got the soft top, which I've never pulled it, but it's cool. You've got the canvas back cover, which is covering the small, teeny little pickup bed area in this thing. And when I say teeny, it's small. I had to carry a couple of things for the client, and not a lot of room to work back there. And they had a long run with the Hummer. You know, you think about it, this vehicle was made from 92 to 2006. It's a pretty long run with it. Originally made by AM General, and ultimately GM bought them and kind of remarketed this vehicle so it wasn't just a military based, but it became a kind of a collectible type vehicle. And at this point, it's a very collectible. I mean, this thing's got just over 11,000 miles on it, and it's a 2006. So do the math. This thing's doing less than 1,000 miles a year in driving. If you were gonna look to buy a vehicle, this mileage, everything about it, this one in particular, if the owner ever decided to sell it, right now he'd be looking at pulling, you know, somewhere in the 150,000 or so range, possibly a little more than that. And that'll only continue to climb. It gets driven very little. But it's actually really not a bad driving vehicle. You know, it's a little weird when you come to a dead stop, the vehicle bobs back and forth. It's a little weird. But all in all, you know, it's a fun vehicle to drive. All right, you guys, well, that's it for our cruise in this 2006 Hummer H1 Alpha. You know, there's nothing like this. It's a very unique vehicle, obviously. This has become highly collectible, up in the $150,000+ range at this point, especially with the condition of this one. It's never seen anything but public roads. It's got just over 11,000 miles. I mean, this is an immaculate version of a Hummer H1 Alpha. So hope you guys had a good time in this one today. I had a blast driving this thing and talking through some of the details. You know, as always, thanks for hanging and watching and supporting what we're up to. Truly do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next episode. All right, man. Later.